So, you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Cattani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithcattani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Cattani, and I'm joined today by Jason Wright. Jason is a speaker, author, entrepreneur, consultant, and digital marketing architect with a passion for helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs with their sales funnels. Jason prides himself on his ability to connect with people and speak to them in a language they understand. Jason is able to design successful marketing plans, all while keeping a positive attitude and sense of humor along the way. Jason, welcome.
Thank you. That was a hell of an intro, brother. Appreciate it.
Second try. April's going to edit out that first attempt there, but words are hard sometimes.
They are.
But very excited for today's show. Jason and I are friends in real life, so I love when I can have that. And it's a little bit different today because he is not solely focused on real estate investing. We're more focused today on kind of this stuff that happens behind the scenes. So, you join someone's email list, the things that are happening on that back end and designing all of that fun stuff. But let's start at the very beginning. How did you get into this kind of side of things?
Yeah, it was a complete accident, to be honest with you. About 7 years ago, I was in corporate America, and I just, like so many people, I just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to work for people anymore. I don't want to commute. I want some control over my life, So I set out on this journey where we quit corporate America twice because the first time was a complete failure, and it was a really struggle-filled journey, and it was a hard time. But when I was back in corporate America and building a business online, I was actually writing copy and blogging for people, like through Upwork and Fiverr. So I was making a little money, but I was like, I really want to do this. But I do like encouraging other people to quit the 9-to-5, even though I haven't done it myself. So I started learning a little bit of marketing just to get my content out there. And I remember looking on Upwork, I was looking for copywriting and blogging, and I kept seeing some of the things I just learned, right? Facebook ads at the time, Active Campaign, ClickFunnels, MailChimp, a bunch of stuff that I knew a little bit about. People were looking for a little bit of help. So I was like, wait, these pay more than what I'm doing, and they're way less boring. So I started doing that to kind of supplement the income and say, hey, wife, look, I'm generating some money every month now. The 6-month droughts are over. And over time, I realized that there's more money coming in from the side hustle than the day job. And my wife, who's not a risk taker, was like, why don't you quit and see what you can do full time? So we started off really broad, like many companies. And over time, we've pivoted and niched down as we've seen fit. And that kind of leads me to where we are today. With that being said, when I got into marketing automation, I was naturally really good at it. Like the way my mind worked paired well with this. So it was a match made in heaven in that regard.
Awesome. I love it. And very grateful for your skills, which have just, you did some work for me and a ton of people. Jason and I got connected through Raise Masters, as I've been connected with a lot of people through there. And so he's helped a ton in the real estate space, kind of with that back end. So let's kind of get into that. Let's talk about, the importance of digital marketing and, kind of what it does for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I always explain digital marketing or marketing is building and maintaining relationships, right? That's all it is. Any relationship you care about in your life, you're going to meet somebody and then continue to get to know them and share stuff about you, share value. Otherwise, the relationship kind of fizzles out and dies, right? So I break it down very simply for that. In the real estate investing world, I want passive investors for my deals, with syndication model or my ongoing stuff with a fund model, or whatever the case may be. And then with active capital raises and kind of that first model, you want to keep people engaged there as well. But the biggest challenge is, what do we talk about when there's no deal, right? That's where everybody struggles with. But I just tell people, think about relationships you care about in your life, and that'll give you some idea of, okay, I can't talk once every 6 months because it's not going to go well. So that's generally where we start. But it's kind of that crucial piece to every business, especially that's mostly virtual. It's critical for growth and scale.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And more complicated than it sounds, for sure, especially once you kind of get into the weeds of it. Certainly at the basic level, it's pretty easy to understand, right? Someone fills out, gives you their information. Let's say it's for an ebook, right? In return, they get the ebook. And then, there's some emails here and there. But in reality, we want, we're going to give away all the secrets here, but in reality, we want to keep them in, I guess, what Hunter likes to call the honeymoon phase, what everyone calls the honeymoon phase. So kind of talk about the philosophy there and, kind of playing on that strategy.
Yeah. So if we want to talk about an ebook, obviously, if somebody opts in your list, you need to give them what you promised them. There's nothing worse when people have lead magnets that don't work, right? I requested that ebook a week ago. Where's it at? Oh, we have no idea. And that happens a lot, to be honest with you. But giving people what you promised them, and then sharing value that they didn't anticipate or ask for over the next several, whatever, days, weeks, how long you want to do it. What that might look like is, here's another lead magnet you didn't know about. I'm going to give you as a gift, right? I'm going to tell you what you can expect from us. I'm going to tell you how we can both be most beneficial to your journey, et cetera, et cetera. So it's value focused. We're not pitching anything. We're not even booking a call, pushing to book to a call yet. It's a very heavily front-loaded value type experience, right? Just like if you go to a really nice hotel, a really nice restaurant, and they just exceed your expectations from a customer service, and it's just that make you feel wonderful thing. It's that same desired effect that we're going for.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great insight. So what are, kind of along those lines, obviously things like open rate and conversion rate and some different metrics that we track. What are some, good numbers from that aspect that we can strive for?
Yeah, it's a good question. Last time I checked, open rates average across all industries, 21% is kind of the benchmark. So I always tell people 20% roughly is what you want or more. If you're getting single digits, like anytime I see like 6% or less, first thing I say is, how'd you build this list, right? Did you scrape this list? Probably they did. And if they didn't, they haven't reached out to them in a year plus. So you want to build the list the right way. Your open rate will tell you a lot about that. Clicks, I'm not as worried about clicks, but I think clicks is usually like 1%. Bounce rate, you want it like 0.1%. And a bounce happens when your email cannot reach the email address you're sending to, right? A soft bounce is something out of your control. And a hard bounce means you're never going to get an email to that email address again. So things to pay attention to. Again, if you're building your list the right way, the bounce rate should stay in check. But anytime I see a sky high bounce rate, again, I'm like, how'd you build this list? Okay. The thing that's more interesting is in your world, if somebody does bring on a new investor, make sure you say, how'd you hear about me? How'd you find out about me? And if you set up your back end, if you set up your marketing automation correctly with tags, you can take a peek at them and say, oh, they hit the ebook, they went through here. You can kind of see their journey. But what's fascinating is you may think you know the normal journey, and you may start to see people circumventing that and maybe coming in a different way. And you may say, hey, people are really resonating with this piece, which is a little bit further along. So your data, even from a high level like that, will kind of let you know what's working, but make sure to have that conversation. How'd you hear about me? And make sure you understand where people came into your world, because it will surprise you sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, like I mentioned, just completed the project for me. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into those metrics and understanding where they're coming from. And that allows then, us to tailor our content, as well as, where we put that content, so that we make sure we're capitalizing on that. So kind of along those lines, what are some things that you see people who are, try to do it themselves or kind of new at this? What are some common errors that you see people making?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest common errors is people have the grand plan, right? Every little thing that they want to do, And it's like, instead of just starting with the first piece, they try to do like a little bit in all areas. And 6 months later, they haven't actually accomplished anything, right? Let's get one thing set up that works now, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't ever be perfect. Imperfect forward action. And we can add to it and add to it and add to it. Because if not, then like I say, you just waste a lot of time. It's very stressful. It's overwhelming. And you really have nothing to show for your time. Start basic, right? Get some kind of a lead magnet, some kind of a plan after people opt in beyond the lead magnet. It's the easiest advice I can give people. There's still guys and gals doing this business with a legal pad and post-it notes only, no technology. I talked to somebody the other day that was younger than me, and they said, yeah, I'm just using Google Sheets. And I was like, why? You have a better system set up. I just like Google Sheets. And I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do it. But there's an easier way. So yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Well, that's great advice there for sure. You don't want to get too carried away. And by the way, we are talking about using Active Campaign. So those of you that use Active Campaign, as Jason says, if you can dream it, it can be done in Active Campaign. But
Yep.
I tried. I did my very best to build it as I could. But ultimately, in the end, I just don't possess the skill or the time, unfortunately, to do it. And Jason has obviously incredible skill, and you've built a team. So let's kind of talk about that. I know when we saw each other, in January in LA,
Yep.
you were finally at the point where you had started to scale. So kind of talk about, how you finally decided that it was at that point and how it's been since then.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because this is going to apply for everybody watching and listening who wants to scale online. It's way harder than it sounds, right? So I've got a team right now of me and my wife and 6 others. There's 4 of us on the client success side, and everybody else is behind the scenes with content distribution, social media, PR, that kind of stuff. So I've had this business 6.5 years, been full-time 4 years. And 2 or 3 other times prior to when I met you, I had tried to scale this business in different models, right? High ticket agency, low ticket agency. And I would get to a point where I couldn't grow anymore because everything would start to collapse in my business. And I kept saying, God, what's the problem here? Right. And I realized last fall, actually, I said, I'm the problem. What we're doing now is almost all custom work. And that's me. I can't teach people everything that I know because their mind doesn't work my way. And if I could, the amount of time and money to do that doesn't really make sense. So I was like, how do I change this business so I can scale it? How do I take myself out of it? So I eventually came up with like some templated project options that I could teach people to do. But the beauty is all of them are still customizable. What I've learned is only about 10% of people want to customize them. And the rest of the people are like, I'll get to it later. And then maybe they do, maybe they don't. So we can still do everything we've always done, but it's not necessary most of the time because people don't want it. So think about that. That's powerful. So I have a US based team on all sides, really. I've got one UK blogger, but a US based team, especially on the client side, because if you talk to somebody in my team, I want you guys speaking the same language, right? Got no issue with the worldwide workforce, but in my industry, so many people have outsourced teams. I said, it's a competitive advantage if I don't. Challenge with that, it's expensive, right? It's expensive, and there's a lot of people here that don't want to work, to be honest with you. So there's some challenges there, but we can 10x our business with the model we have now, which is scary, absolutely scary. So it's been a lot of work as far as how do I train the team to do this stuff? How do I change my hiring and kind of their experience when they come on board? So there's been a lot of infrastructure I've been working on the last 6 or 8 months. And thinking about it, it's like, oh, I'll knock that out today. But when you start to do it, you're like, this is a lot of work. My secret, Loom screen share videos for everything. Training the clients, training the team, hiring process, training people before they even apply. Hey, this is what we're doing. Watch these videos. And if you're interested, then you can apply. Right? That stuff is a game changer. It works. So the thing you didn't know about me, when I was in HR or when I was in corporate, I was in HR for 7 years. So I got
You were an HR guy?
I was.
Wow.
HR sales. And the advantage is I've interviewed 3,000 people before I started doing this for my own business. So I had some familiarity, with what worked with me in the past. And a lot of employers do a lot of things wrong. And I was like, I don't have to do those things wrong because I'm the boss. So we're going to do things differently. So it's been a good experience. It's been challenging, but at some point, if you want to scale, you have to have some kind of documented process. None of ours are written. It's all videos. I don't want to write anything. So hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. And the HR thing, that surprised me a little bit. If anyone knows Jason, he's about 6'5". He's a very large human being, which is nice because him and I go to conferences. We're like, oh, cool. There's other tall people here. I'm about 6'4". So that's funny. But yes, that's a very great point. You even love Loom to respond to emails, which I love, because ultimately it's so much easier to show people, especially for what you're doing. It's so much easier to just show people. Even if it's, 30 seconds, hey, click here, and then click here, and then trying to explain that through an email. So it sounds like you thought your clients wanted something that in reality they don't really want. And once you realize that, you were able to actually scale what they truly wanted.
Oh yeah. I was talking to somebody last week about this. The amount of failed offers that I've put out there is staggering. I mean, I've probably had 10 or 15 LLCs that I created and shut down because I couldn't sell anything. I don't know how many offers I've created around entrepreneurship, mindset, motivation, marketing, complete flop. Once I found the offer that I'm using now and realized that it was selling like throwing biscuits to a room of hungry people, I was like, wait a minute, we might be onto something here. So if you have an offer, and I don't really think I have any competition, and you have almost no competition, and you have a model which can be scaled effortlessly, things can get scary in a good way. So the plan later this month is to turn on some paid traffic to a new lead magnet, targeting real estate investors, teaching them to build a better lead magnets. Things will get very interesting.
I love that. How did you get into like with Hunter and Raise Masters and realize that, you had a ton of value for this sector?
Yeah, so it's a really weird story, actually. So about 18 months ago, I launched this little program. When I say launched, I published it, didn't tell anybody. There was no marketing. I didn't push it on social media. I just published it. But I created this thing called the Active Campaign Agency. And it's the predecessor for my funnel management program now, but it's changed a lot. Anyways, the day that I finished it and put it out there, 2 people bought right away, which I still found perplexing because I was like, how would they find this? Like Google wouldn't update that quickly. Hunter was one of them. So his wife found it and bought. And I was like, is it? My wife came upstairs. She said, are you testing your funnel? I was like, no. She said, those are real purchases. I was like, yes. She's like, how are they finding him? Like, I have no idea. So Hunter was one of them. And his wife was helping him out with Active Campaign back then. And we got connected. And once she had enough confidence that I actually knew what I was talking about, she's like, I'm out, So I had worked with Hunter for probably 4, 5, 6 months. And then he started Raise Masters, and we kind of worked together to help build the back end of that original funnel for the webinar and all that kind of stuff. And I've just been working with him ever since. So
awesome. I love it. And so did you have any experience with this? I believe at least last time we spoke, you were not invested in any kind of real estate. Is that still true?
it is still true right now. So I will probably get involved as a passive investor at some point. There's probably no way around it. I'm exposed to it too regularly. The fun part of this job is like, I don't even feel it like it's a job, but the fun part of what I do is like, when I started, I was like, I don't totally understand everything you're doing, but I understand enough about the people you want to attract and nurture and convert, right? So those skills are transferable, but now there's so many different angles and models and ideas that it's just super interesting. And just week to week, I get to talk to more people in this space that are doing different stuff. So it's very educational. And I see where my interests lie. I'm like, that's interesting to me. That guy knows what he's doing. I want to give him some money someday and see what happens.
Awesome. I love that. It's pretty universal in terms of, I guess, like the templates and sort of the art, the science behind it is universal, right? Science is science, whether you're, real estate investor or e-commerce, you know, there's kind of I would imagine a general outline for how you want things to go. Is that pretty true?
I would say with real estate investing and high ticket service, it's pretty close. E-com's a little different with projects because as weird as it seems, a lot of e-com brands who do well are just pounding their list with promos, coupons, and sales. And it works, but it doesn't really work in the high ticket service world. People are like, stop, you know what I mean? But we're almost conditioned because of the big brands and Black Friday and the holidays to be pounded with those physical product coupons and promos. So it's a little bit different. I actually shy away from e-com. I don't really like working with it, but the real estate investors I enjoy, the high ticket service people I enjoy as well.
Yeah, that makes sense because you don't want to spam people too hard, right? Like, I mean, of course, e-commerce, like you said, you're sending a ton of coupons, you know, you're trying to get people to buy, but here if you do that, you'll easily get someone to unsubscribe and leave your list.
Well, and think about this. Let's pretend you're selling coaching, right? I was going to make up a number. Say it's $5,000 a month. If you tell me it's $5,000 a month and Tuesday you send me a coupon for 80% off, I'm like, he's devaluing his own coaching so much. I don't want it. Like, you can keep it, bro. I don't want that discount stuff. So it sends the wrong message in a high ticket service as well, in my opinion.
Makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm currently going through slowly on my personal email and unsubscribing from so many lists. I mean, I think we all have the burner email that we use when we want to sign up for something and get that discount code right off the bat.
Yep.
But that's how they get you, right? Because then you stay on that list for so long. And I mean, you know, like I've heard of investors who've had people on their list for 5 years and they just stayed quiet. And then one day they invested in a deal with them. So
Yep, it happens. It's funny. My wife and I love Costco, love Costco. So easy to spend money there. And you never feel bad about it. You're like, we literally bought no junk. Everything they sell is good, but they absolutely carpet bomb our inbox with emails like multiple times a day. I'm like, really? 3 times today? It's not even lunch. What are you doing over there? But it works for them. You know, they're just, I don't know. They've created such a good brand. They can kind of get away with it. But I try to do like an email a week to my list. But when I look at my numbers, it's like 3 emails a month. I never even get that 4th email because time gets away from you. But I will say this, and you didn't ask this question, but I will say that consistency with your content or your outreach, I think is a little bit more important than even the content, right? If I'm podcasting regularly, which I'm not now, but I have many, many years in the past, if I do something weekly, if I commit to weekly and do it weekly, even if one show's not as good as the previous, I'm still out there. You still get to hear Jason, you still get to hear what I think. So it keeps people engaged, keeps people looking for it. So that consistency with your outreach and your marketing, even at the most basic level, is I think more important than even content.
Absolutely. And what are some things along those lines to kind of keep things fresh, right? You know, kind of maintenance, I guess, for the back end stuff and the marketing and all of that.
So one thing I do that I think one other client that I've ever worked with has agreed to do as well is like, if people become disengaged, like I have a couple re-engagement automations, but if they get to the point, if it's been a year and they don't re-engage, I automatically unsubscribe them from all lists, right? So I'm regularly kicking people off my list because I'm like, if you cared, you would open something or you would go to the website. So I'm just doing us both a favor and getting you out. And I've had people say, why would you ever do that? Well, it helps my deliverability, right? There's algorithms to all this stuff that we don't understand. And but there is best practices to help keep things kind of optimized. But like, why would you want to keep inviting somebody over to your Christmas party who's never showed up, right? At a certain point, it's got to be awkward. It's been 15 years. They obviously don't want to come, so I'm not going to ask them anymore. So it's kind of my thinking there.
Totally. No, I'm right there with you. And I guess all engagement needs is just an open, right? Even if they just open it, that counts as engagement. So we're just kind of getting them to that. And you know, like you mentioned, right? If they haven't done anything for a year, pretty safe to say they're not going to do it. And it really, like you said, it helps that algorithm because what's actually happening is Google, right, and all these email hosts are paying attention to these things. And this is all kind of working in the back. So kind of explain some of that stuff.
Yeah, so there's mysterious algorithms both on the sending side, so like out of active campaign in my world, and on the receiving inboxes, the biggest in the world being Gmail, right? In Google Workspace. Some people still use AOL and Hotmail, and there's Ymail and Mail, and there's a bunch of them out there. So all those services kind of talk to each other. And sometimes, your email hits spam. Sometimes it doesn't hit anything. It never even makes it there. So there's just best practices, building your list right, regularly engaging the list, cleaning the list when it makes sense. And one thing I'll say is, you asked us a little bit about this earlier. Don't be scared to take some chances with your email copywriting. And what I mean is, yeah, you may want to talk about deals. You may want to talk about success stories of other passive investors, but sometimes take a different angle and don't talk about that stuff at all, right? It's okay to be human, be vulnerable, take some chances, talk about your business, what's going on in your business, talk about the area you're in, or maybe the markets you like, or talk about some abstract things you might think about the future of investing that aren't real popular, just to mix it up, right? So something we share is just a little worksheet, and it gives you the idea of 5 buckets, right? Take 5 different perspectives of your business. So for mine, it could be high level and low level both, right? It could be active campaign. It could be, marketing to real estate investors. It could be motivation. It could be mindset. Could be entrepreneurship, right? And what we could do is we could take 1 email a week out of each bucket and have a different angle where it's still relevant to our company, but gives people different perspectives and different ideas. So check this out. You'll be one of the first to hear about this. Last week, I had the thought, I was like, email marketing and the automation is great. Two-way text is great. I'm going to implement some ringless voicemail into my automations as well. So I'm going to have this 3-pronged approach. Well, I was like, this will take me 10 minutes to set up. 3 hours later, I was finally like, is this thing working yet? And it finally worked, but it was a little bit harder to set up than I think. But think about that from your standpoint. If you've had a phone call with somebody and they're thinking about becoming an investor, having some well-timed ringless voicemails, it does like a half ring. And then if they look on their caller ID, the number it came from is the same phone number I use for sales message, right? So if they call it back, it goes to a voicemail box and it emails me. They're not calling my cell phone. And if they text it back, it goes straight into sales message and I can text them back. But think about using that for active capital raises, if that's your model of business, right? Sometimes people miss emails and they ignore text, but if they get that voicemail, they may say, hey, I didn't know what's going on. I want more info. So having that extra approach that's automated is wildly powerful. I can't wait to see what happens with it.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I'll be interested to see kind of the metrics behind that. I'm not a huge voicemail person. I'll be honest, mostly because the spam has just ruined voicemail, by just, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Like, yeah, okay.
You know what's crazy? I don't get those calls anymore. I get maybe like 1 or 2 spam calls like every 6 months. Like it never happens. My phone, if it rings, I know you.
Gosh, they've gotten so smart too. And they're using the caller ID shows up and it's local. And
oh yeah,
I mean, the iPhones do a good job of like catching it, and usually it doesn't ring all the way through. But now with me being in the field I am, and my cell phone number literally being plastered on the internet, like I got to answer. So then of course I answer and I'm like, hi, this is Jonathan. And they're like, it's some automation. And
that's why I don't use my real number anywhere. That's why it's the sales message number, because I've learned. How old are you? Do you mind me asking?
31.
Okay. So you don't remember the days with the home phone and no voicemail, do you?
I remember no voicemail.
Do you? Or sorry, no caller ID.
Oh yes. Yeah. No caller ID. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember, man, the phone used to ring and you just had to answer, see who it was, man. It was a different world back then.
Oh man, so different. Gosh.
I remember the phone with the long cord that reached all the way to the ground so you could get into another room,
Yep. I remember how cool it was when I was in junior high that we got a second phone line.
Yep.
So my sister and I had our own landline.
Nice. Very cool.
And we had one of those like, and of course by then it was cordless phones, so now here we are. We can do literally I got a freaking computer in my pocket.
Yeah.
And run my entire business from my phone if I wanted to.
Yep.
Gosh, it's crazy. I wonder what else we're going to see. Do you think we're going to see flying cars?
I don't know. I think we're going to see some interesting stuff. I haven't even looked into this far enough to wrap my mind around it. But have you heard of this? I don't even know how to say it, but there's this. It's all online, and you can buy like virtual real
The
estate.
metaverse.
The metaverse.
Yeah.
We're going to see some crazy stuff with that in marketing,
Crazy.
where you're like advertising on a metaverse Times Square billboard, and you're like, what? And people are it's actually working. Like there's going to be some crazy stuff coming in the next 10 years that we're just struggling to make sense out of.
Some of these properties are going for millions of dollars in this metaverse.
Yep.
Like these big names are buying up property, I guess what you would consider prime real estate in the metaverse. From what I understand, it's pretty similar in the sense like it's going to be designed like how we are now, where you can go visit LA and Denver and, like go to these different places. And so everything's kind of relative in that sense. But this feels very Ready Player One, if you've seen that movie,
Yeah.
where eventually people are going to want to be in that world more than the real world.
Absolutely. I'm old school. I'll
Exciting.
keep it with actual experience.
Yeah, we're right. We're like that last generation that understood things, like it's so crazy because I would go out and play and it would just come home before the streetlights. And if by chance you were at a friend's house and can make a phone call to check in, you did. Now parents are like, tracking their kids
Yeah.
on their phones. It's
Yep.
crazy.
It's scary, man. We live in a really quiet, safe neighborhood, so to speak. And last year, a van tried to grab my daughter and take off with her, and she got away. She ran through the woods to a neighbor's. Yep. So I started making her carry mace, and I'm like, you can't escape the craziness. It finds you everywhere eventually. So
Gosh,
it's
that's
funny.
unfortunate.
When I was a kid, we didn't even have the street lights rule. It's like my parents were oblivious I was even gone. I was all over the place. And I would just show up at home and there was never like, where were you? They were just like, oh, hey, you came back. Cool. It's just a totally different approach.
We had this bike path that was, just like a block away. And then it literally went through 3 towns. I would be like 3 towns away sometimes by the time my friends and I had rode our bikes and met up with other people. And, and then of course you're looking for whose house has all the bikes out front of it. That's where how you know where everyone is. Like, gosh, it's so crazy to think we did things without cell phones.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now it's all within arm's reach.
Yep, now people don't even knock on your door. They just text you that they're here.
But I always tell my friends, you don't need to let me know, because as soon as you get close to the house, I've already got you on camera. I know you're here,
I know.
So
absolutely. Yeah. That and dogs. I mean, you have a dog.
Yep. 2 dogs.
You have 2 dogs? What kind of dogs?
So one's a beagle. I'm a big fan of beagles. And then we have a poodle mix who's just a little bit smaller. So we have 2 small dogs. Used to have a big dog, but he's gone now. And the smaller dogs are a little easier to handle. Like if there's drama, you can pick them up or you can just pull them apart. But you throw a big dog in the mix and things can get a little scary. But there's also no liability of them hurting anybody. So
totally. Yeah. Any aspirations for a working dog? I know you're a hunter as well.
No, not really. If I rabbit hunted that beagle, he is just absolutely naturally obsessed with it. So not really. We like to travel a lot. Like we got the bug about a year ago. And actually right before this podcast today, we're planning something after Miami for October.
Nice.
And it's just like with what we want to do with travel, even just boarding 2 dogs, for a month and a half a year. I mean, it gets expensive. One of them's diabetic, and it's like, man, between kids and dogs, it makes it challenging. But as the kids get older and the dogs keep dying off, it's like more and more freedom comes into play, and I don't want to go back on that. So
yeah, I'm right there with you. I've got an 8-year-old black lab.
Yep.
He's an angel.
Great dog.
And he's getting arthritis in his front elbows, and so he's kind of on a regiment so that he can move. And so I can't just like leave him anywhere.
Yeah.
He needs to be taken care of. So, and same thing, like he is a working dog. He's a hunting dog. I like to duck hunt. But he, and I've wanted to get another one, of course, but same thing. Like I've really caught the travel bug lately, and gosh, leaving a puppy would be near impossible.
Oh yeah.
Because we'll go on, a week-long trip. Like I've got a buddy's bachelor party coming up. We're doing a week on the river. Like I'll be gone out of touch for a whole week.
Yep.
So So yeah, so I mean, I love them to death, of course, and I'll eventually have more, but that freedom, man, it's sure nice.
Oh yeah. That's why we do what we do, man. It's the freedom first lifestyle.
Absolutely. I love it. Real quick, I didn't know you wrote a book. Kind of touch on your book.
Yeah, so I wrote a book several years ago called The Backwards Route to Forward Progress. And it's really a mindset book, right? It's still relevant. And I look at it once in a while today. I go, man, it's pretty good for me of 4 years ago or whatever. And, it's a simple book. You could sit down and read it in probably an hour and a half or so. But it's focused on, mindset. And it's interesting because even people I know now who have a very high level of success, like 5, 6, 7 million a year in digital services, right? They're crushing it. They still struggle with mindset. And I'm like, are you hearing yourself right now? Like, you're in the 1% of successful entrepreneurs. What are you worried about? And so people struggle with that at all levels. And some people just can't break out of it. I'm a weirdo, right? I think if I say I'm going to do something, like, who's going to stop me? Like, I literally am like, I can't do that. Like, I can't come fly with my arms and come meet you today because my arms would get tired, right? I can't do that. So that's impossible. But as far as me accomplishing goals, I literally feel like nobody can stop me. So it's going to happen. It may take longer than I think, but not everybody thinks that way. So it's a very interesting book. It's generally targeted at entrepreneurs. I am actually working on a new book focused on marketing. So I've just started that. I'm not going to give a timeline. I've learned that's a horrible idea because the first book took me about 18 months and I actually lost it. I was about 3/4 of the way done. And my computer, I think we got a lightning strike, fried the hard drive and lost all of it and had to
No
start
way.
over.
You had
I
to start
swear,
completely over.
completely over. I had no notes or
Oh,
anything. I was like, oh my God. So after that, it took me, I think, 6 months to finish it from there.
oh man, that hurts. That hurts
Yep.
me for you.
Yep. The new book is called The Intentional Marketer, and I'm trying to make it as so it's heavily real estate investor focused, but it has a little bit of focus towards service-based entrepreneurship as well. But it's going to talk about all things relevant to kind of what I'm doing now, and I try to make it as evergreen as possible so it's still relevant 20 or 30 years from now too.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm already. I'm not. I probably won't start this year. I'll probably start either next year or the year after. But I've already have an idea for a book as well. Um, and it's funny because I never thought I would write a book, and now like Sam. So for the listeners, Sam's my girlfriend. She's published. And I don't want to say it's easy. It's not easy. That's not what I'm trying to get at. I'm just trying to say that the most this is a better way to the most successful people have written books, or
Yeah.
at least in my circle have
Yep.
written books.
Yep.
And so there's something to be said about it. And I think it just, kind of builds that credibility even more, as well as, you provide, incredible value to people, just from your perspective, right? I think I was at a conference over the weekend, and one of the speakers made a really great point that they were talking about podcasting and just saying that your voice may be the one that it takes for a person to change their mindset or get into investing or change something about their life. So do it. So don't be afraid. Go and do it. So
It's funny. I used to work at one of the jobs I went back to in corporate America. I was selling publishing packages for a publisher. So I talked to a bunch of aspiring authors, right? It's incredible. Everybody you speak to, it's not about the money to get published. It's about their own limiting self-beliefs. I'm not worthy. I'm not ready. That whole I'm not ready thing is interesting because I say, what's going to change between now and 1 year or 2 years down the road? Well, I'll have more experience. You're going to feel the same thing as you do now. Like nothing's going to change. Start with a title, frame it out by chapter, and then just start working on one at a time and know that it's not going to be finished, right? An editor's going to look at it, you're going to tweak and adjust, but you've got to make progress, do it in little chunks at a time, right? So getting started is the hardest part mentally, not actually doing it. Do I recommend you sit down and write for 12 hours in a row? I don't want to do that. But if you sit down for 45 minutes uninterrupted and do it once a week or twice a week or something, before you know it, you'll go, holy crap, I got a bunch of pages here. So there's my pitch for doing that.
I love it. Totally. I've said this before, but I love this quote. It's you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Yep.
So good. Awesome. Well, that brings us to the final five. It's our last 5 questions we ask all of our guests.
Okay.
First question, what's the best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Do something today your future self will thank you for.
Love it. What is it about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
Yeah, good question. My big obsession at this point has nothing to do with me. It's about leaving my clients better off than I found them. So the reason I make all those videos is because I could just answer your questions in email like other digital service companies, but I want to educate you as well. Okay, so that's very satisfying, especially when people go, now I understand, like I really understand. And then being able to help my team financially, watch them grow, let them get involved in decision making with hiring and offers and how we do things, and seeing how that impacts that world. So that impact is really what's satisfying and what drives me, but it has nothing to do with me. It's about the clients I serve and the team that I help build.
Awesome. Wow, I love that. That's so great. What's your favorite non-real estate or investment related book, if you read real estate books?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Kiyosaki. I think my favorite book is How to Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. It's just it's an old book. It's a classic. A lot of people have read it more than once, but it introduces the concept of the mastermind. It's interesting to see how some of the most successful guys early on in American history kind of rose up and built things and came together, and iron sharpens iron and all that. So for me, it's pretty high up there.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, that's a pretty common one. Great book. Like you said, just kind of that classic. Speaking of evergreen, Napoleon Hill is about as evergreen as it comes to those concepts.
Absolutely.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I think flying would be fun.
Nice. Yeah,
Yep.
You got it. It's got to be flying. That's
Yep.
fine for sure. Cool. And last one, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
Yep. Visit my website, intentionallyinspirational.com. Good luck for getting that name. It's memorable.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Awesome.
Cool. Jason, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Looking forward to Miami. For those that are wondering, Raise Masters is doing its annual retreat in Miami in October. So it's going to be sweet. Are you bringing your wife?
So her and the kids are meeting me right at the end of it. Then we're actually renting a car and going down to visit all the Keys right after that for fall break.
Love the Keys.
Yep.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, man. It was a blast.
Absolutely. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.